I know. I was trying to get here as fast as possible.
That's what we like. That's what we like. And we're live right away. So welcome everybody to yet another live interview with Become a Fearless Father. And today I have the pleasure to be here with Daniel Ramsey. I really appreciate it. And this is actually really cool because this is the first time that I had somebody reaching out like, hey, I really enjoy your show. I want to be on. I was like, really? That's awesome. I love it. And then especially with the text, because she was saying like building a successful business while championing fatherhood, and I was like, man, that's a no-brainer. Let's go.
Yeah.
So before we start introducing you, Daniel, let's start off with that. What is one of the keys that you can share with all entrepreneurial dads out there to build a successful business? And of course, very important, make sure that you are what I call a fearless father. You are, championing fatherhood.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, we'll do both of those separately because they're very different skills, right? So my company is called MyOutDesk. It's right up there, boom. And you got a call and a text and an email from one of our virtual assistants. And so, we reach out to folks and we're on shows and we do blog posts, and all of that is done by my virtual assistant team. And all we did was model the pros and model the largest companies out there. And if you look at the Fortune 500, companies in the US, they all outsource, they all use talent in other countries to help them run businesses. So, my biggest thing is just model what the largest companies in your industry do, and then just do a great job at it, and try to make it work for your kind of segment or what you're up to. But as an entrepreneur, people think they need to create something or build something new or be special. And all that's a little bit important in like your marketing, but business is business. Model what the big boys do. That's what I would say.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great advice. Absolutely. We'll jump into the champion of fatherhood in a second. And Daniel, first, man, share a little bit with us. I know you got 2 daughters. You're married. Share a little bit of information, background about that, so we get the whole picture. But also share a little bit about your origin story, so we got both pictures together, right?
Yeah, it's a great story. So, I met my wife playing soccer, actually, which was awesome. She was the one gal. I went to the team and I was like, whoa, she's cute, and we started dating right away. And I knew within a couple months that we were going to get married. She had no clue, she liked me, right? So I was intentional, all the way around, and we got to know each other. We got married. What happened for me is I was an entrepreneur, and she, we are in relationships, like the wife or the husband, for entrepreneurs, it's such a big part of success in business, because if your personal life is all messed up, your business life is going to be all messed up too. And my wife and I, we really segment. Like, I run my day and she runs my weekends and evenings. Like, she puts it on my calendar. Hey, tonight we're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? But when we were first getting married, she was a teacher. So she wasn't used to having a bank account of 0 one day and then having like $100,000 in the bank account, and then watching it go back down to $5,000. Like that roller coaster when when you're new in business. I mean, that's the reality of it. So we had lots of conversations about what it means to be an entrepreneur, and she fully signed on, for what marriage to an entrepreneur kind of looks like. And so we were on our honeymoon, actually, and I was working at 1 a.m, if you can believe that, and on my laptop, and the bartender's making fun of me. He grabs my phone and snaps a photo of me working on my honeymoon. And I'd done this a couple nights in a row. My wife was sleeping in the bungalow. We were in Guatemala in the rainforest with monkeys everywhere. And he starts making fun of me, and I speak a little bit of Spanish, and so, he's making fun of me. And that night I realized something had to shift in how I ran my business in order to stay married and eventually have kids and that full lifestyle, right? Because it wasn't good that I had to work when I was on my honeymoon. So that's kind of part of the origin story of why we got into virtual assistants and why we hired so many folks and why we started documenting all of our systems and processes. It was really because I wanted to be married and stay married and eventually have kids and like have that full life. Because as an entrepreneur, we get to design whatever we want, really.
Yep, exactly. Love it. Man, that's a great origin story. I love it. Now people got a real good picture of that, which also got me tons of new questions.
All
so
right.
one of the things, man, because you were saying like, okay, that led us to the conversation of explaining like, okay, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So for those fathers that are watching and they're working a 9-to-5 and are like, kind of like, because the thing is, man, what I've noticed a lot, it kind of looks like it's glorified, like, oh, everybody's got to be an entrepreneur nowadays. It's so amazing, fantastic. And, what does it mean, like truly mean to be an entrepreneur?
Well, if somebody's listening and they're not currently, or they're thinking about it or considering, I would give you both sides, all of the challenges, but all of the blessings too, because there's always two sides. There's a yin and a yang. And, from a challenges perspective, I had to work on my honeymoon. Like there was no doubt about it. Like I had to work on my honeymoon, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the challenge. Weekends, evenings, nights, like, and when I say evenings, I'm talking about like 5 to 10, and nights when I say I've stayed up all night before working. Like I've literally flown on a jet from the West Coast to the East Coast in the middle of the night, continue to work because at 7 a.m. I had to do a thing, and I wasn't ready for that thing, and I wanted it to be perfect. And so, yeah, it means evenings, weekends, whatever it takes. And, so that's the downside. And plus you have the stress of being an employer, like being responsible for somebody else's livelihood, like, having another father's income in your hands and the responsibility that looks like. I mean, it can be stressful when you're making decisions about keeping somebody or letting somebody go or even hiring somebody or then trying something new. I mean, the most stressful thing you can do as an entrepreneur is say, I'm going to try this new thing and I'm going to hire somebody to help me with it. And then you don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you're doing. And it ends up being a disaster. Well, what do you do with that person who committed to come work with you? So the stress is real, the challenges are real, and that's all of the hard part. Managing money, oh my goodness. If you don't know how to manage cash flow, it can like strangle and choke you. One time we had a couple clients not pay us. Well, they happened to be some of our largest clients, and we got behind by $50,000 in payroll. So I'm taking my personal money and putting it into the business, and then I'm on my phone with the clients saying, "Hey guys, you gotta pay us." And if you've never begged for money that somebody actually already owes you, I mean, those are the kind of things, because if they didn't pay me, I would have been screwed. I mean, I literally would have. I don't know what I would have done because I didn't have credit cards, I didn't have a line of credit, like. I needed their money to fund the operations of the business, and I just used all my own personal cash to basically put into the business because they wouldn't pay me, And so those are some of the challenges that you have as an entrepreneur, and it can be heavy. So that's the downside. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely, and I can second that for most of the parts. I'm about to hire somebody, and I'm actually kind of nervous about it. So
yeah.
But yeah, definitely. So share the highlights, man, because I'm sure not everybody also would like to know, okay, so what are the positives besides people showing up and showing like, oh, look at me with this beautiful car, which is usually rented or from their friend or something like that.
Yeah. There's some positive stuff. Like today I chose my schedule, like 100%, like I'm choosing what I do. And I mean, even this call, like I chose to be here, spend time with you. That's something that people, if you're an entrepreneur, like I would say that's the one differentiator. If you really want to control your own destiny, if you really want to control your own financial, future, if you want to control your calendar, you want to control, your relationships. Like one thing about being an entrepreneur is that is the thing. Like I have 100% control whether I make more money or not. I have 100% control whether I go to work every single day. And so I get to choose. And a lot of people who are employees or are in a space where they're doing something they don't love, that's the upside, I think, in my world. There's a lot of financial freedom, there's a lot of time freedom, and there's a lot of choice in how I work every single day.
Exactly. So talking about that, because I heard a lot of people say like, or ask like, okay, are you born an entrepreneur or can you just learn how to be one?
Yeah, I want to be clear. It's either or. And you know how I know that? Because, okay, so our business, we've served over 5,000 entrepreneurs, like literally 5,000 business owners just like you have called us and asked us, for help in their business. And we get their org chart, we look at their financials, we understand their business model. We know what CRMs they're using and what their whole financial, picture. And I can tell you 100%, I know entrepreneurs who are born as entrepreneurs, and I know entrepreneurs who were made into entrepreneurs, meaning they made a choice and then they went out and got the resources to support their growth into that role. And I know a lot of people who are angry entrepreneurs, like they're pissed off because they're entrepreneurs and they sometimes wish they wouldn't be, but they've made that choice and they stick with it, right? And there's some challenge when you're an entrepreneur and you don't love it. I feel bad for those people because it's hard, But I would say, dude, if you're made or if you're originally an entrepreneur, the secret is the right support, regardless of what you're doing. The right, physical support, the right coaching for your business, the right spiritual support. I don't know how deep you guys go on these podcasts. I watched a couple of them. I'll tell you right now, man, I see a spirit coach once or twice a month. So her name's Janai Lane. She's amazing. She's in San Francisco, California. And she just helps me get my head right and my heart right. Okay. Then I see a psychologist twice a month. So every week I'm either seeing a head shrink or a heart shrink,
Nice.
Every single day I do an exercise, I do a meditation. I start the morning, in a particular way. So sauna, hot tub, kind of a little bit of meditation, reading, and some journaling. Affirmations, like every single morning. That's my morning, regardless of what I did the night before. So sometimes I'm hungover in the hot tub going, I wish I could sleep for another hour, but regardless of whether you're born or made into being an entrepreneur, the key is the right support structure and systems. I'm also in an accountability group, a group called Go Abundance, which is a tribe of healthy, wealthy men. And we choose to live epic lives by doing amazing contribution stuff, great physical stuff, giving back into the community, running epic businesses, being great fathers. So I've got a community of other like-minded men.
Nice.
That we meet with on a monthly basis. And sometimes, sometimes I'm calling guys every week because I got some problem going on, right? I also have another, and that's a national group. And then I have a local chapter of this group called Fierce CEO. And there are 8 guys who run really large businesses in my area. So there's 8 of us, and we all have over 100 employees, and we all kind of, get together once a quarter and do a tour of each other's businesses. And then once a quarter, we're doing a Zoom call and we're sharing our challenges and talking through it. So I don't know. What I want people to hear is, if you're an entrepreneur, my biggest mistakes that I've ever made is when I didn't have enough support in my life. And so I've just made a habit of paying for the right people for the right support, and then being engaged with a good group of people to be, brothers or accountability partners.
Exactly. Yeah, that one actually for me right now is changing the game completely. Like I got 4 coaches at the moment.
Nice.
And I had none when I was doing my other business, which I actually was doing together with my mom. And we were just struggling for 5 years. And then I changed it. I got a coach, and then I killed the business and started this, Become a Fearless Father. And this is in a year 10 times more successful than the other one for 5 years. And it's exactly that. But I see so many, because you're sharing this now. I'm sharing this as well. I share this as many times as I can when I go live. Get yourself a coach, find one. I mean, I got 4, and I'm not saying that I'm in the financial position that you are. However, you can always work something out, right? If you think what you need and thinking like, okay, what are my possibilities? Now, like, what can I do? But what can I do, right? You can find them. What is it that people, however, and I think maybe that's more with the men anyway, what is it that they still not reaching out to find the right coach for them to help them? What you saying, right? Spirit, mind, you're talking about everything, which is so powerful, right?
Yeah, I can tell you what I did. I mean, look, I'm 12 years into one of my businesses, 17 years in being an entrepreneur. I was dumb, stupid, unequipped, stubborn, pig-headed, cheap, pathetic. All the bad words you would tell yourself, right? Because I just didn't, I thought I could do it by myself, or I thought I was strong enough, or I thought, I don't know. And to be honest, like, some of my lowest points as being an entrepreneur were in times when I wasn't properly supported. When I cut the coach go, or I stopped going to our the mentorship program, or I stopped being in relationships with my guys. So if you're listening right now, like, whatever your goals are, I would be looking for mentors, accountability partners, places to learn, places to find a community so that you can kind of get to where you want to go. It's an interesting class. Here's another piece. I know so many entrepreneurs. The guy who owns this, one of my best friends, do a shout out, Arrow Asphalt. I went to college with him. He's one of my buddies. I'm wearing this shirt today on your show, which is awesome. I might even take a picture of this and send it to him. Like, what's up? But we resist writing things down as entrepreneurs, a little bit because we want to buck the system, a little bit because, it takes a long time to go from your brain to a written document, right? And he didn't want to, and we were talking about it. I was like, look, just write it down, man. Write it down. Write down what your goal is. Write down what you want. Write down why you want it. What would happen for you afterwards. So another kind of entrepreneur hack to keep your life straight is write down goals. And we translate that for our kids. We haven't even really talked about becoming a fearless father yet.
Oh, we'll get to that. Don't worry.
But I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we write down our goals as a family, and we visualize what our year is going to look like. We have big old vision boards. My 3-year-old said, we asked my 3-year-old, who, really just learned how to talk, like a year ago, like it's brand new, for her. And we say, what do you want to do this year? Do you want to do ballet? Do you want to learn soccer? Her older sister's in soccer, her older sister's in piano, and then we write down our trips, like where we're going to go for vacation. And we write down, what school they're in and what groups they're going to be in, and, and what they want to be when they're adults. We even write that down so they have a clear understanding of what their goals are. So part of, I think, the secret sauce of being an entrepreneur family is teaching your children those basic goal setting and accountability and visualization tenets, and just sticking with that,
Yeah, exactly. I like that. So let me ask you this. This is also personal interest. When you say write it down, like, are we talking about, because everything lately is digital, right? So are we talking about actually writing down, or are we also talking about, okay, you can also type it out on a computer? What's your view on that?
That's a great question. Let me give you what we've done. So our businesses are taught to do core values and have goals and have like there's a bunch of things, right? So as a family, we have our core values written out physically on a piece of paper. Like, I took them to a designer and paid, $20 to have one of our virtual assistants actually do a design. So I had them spend, a couple hours. And so we have our family logo on it. We have, Ramsey's our love at the top. We love ourselves. We love people. And we love our time. And so we put our family kind of core values in writing. And then every year we put our vision boards on paper, like a really big one, like a huge, 2x2 or something. And
Nice.
each person in the family has it. So my wife, has a 2-piece on her, a bathing suit, 2-piece. She wants to look great in a 2-piece swimsuit. My youngest daughter, I think she wanted to be a ballerina. So we put a little ballerina on it, right? So we have our core values written out and our family motto. We also have their goals and then what we're going to do in terms of travel and fun and adventure as a family. So they don't know this yet, but we're doing a Disney cruise this year in Mexico. So this year they're both going to put cruise boats on their thing and then put Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, and we'll help them draw that, and then they'll color it, and that'll be part of what they have to look forward to for the year.
Exactly. And that's a great way to spend time together as a family, do stuff together. You're teaching them everything. I mean, you're teaching them to be creative, right, with the painting and all that stuff, but you're also teaching them how to think. Like, what do I really want, and all that stuff that we aren't, or most people, adults, aren't even doing yet. So I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. That's great advice that you snuck in there for everybody. So now that we're moving a little bit in towards champion fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
What are the keys to that? Because I've noticed that, the dads, they go from the 9 to 5, and now they go to the 120 hours work week as an entrepreneur, right? How do you set that up? So
well, I think it all starts with your relationship with your wife or your spouse or your partner or whatever. I think one of the biggest things is we are very intentional about our family. Like, I knew I have this passion for growing a business and helping people and serving. And so like, that's just such a part of me that there was no way I could not be that. Like, I'm going to do that regardless of what my world looks like. And, I'm lucky to be married to a woman who said, my number one priority is raising our children. So she stays at home and she's a mom and she loves and nurtures on our kids. So if I was going to say what's the one thing, is be very clear and intentional about how you're going to parent and what the division of labor is going to look like. There was this Harvard study, and gosh, I wish I remembered what the name of it was. But if you look it up, it's in the 1920s, they did this huge study. And you might have to find this later and then throw it in the notes, or maybe I'll find it and throw it in the notes for everyone. But they did this study in the 1920s, and they took 150 Harvard men, 150 non-Harvard college graduates, and then they followed them for 70 years. And they cued them on family health, personal health, wealth, like job satisfaction, whether they were married or divorced, why they died. I mean, every single thing, whether they were happy or not happy. And they did this over the course of 70 years, right? And after 70 years of research, Harvard versus this other college, just a standard state college, right? They found only one factor. There was only one thing that made a difference for happiness and success in life. And it was the warmth of the mother, son, and daughter. That's it. Like, whether or not your mom was warm and loving meant more to whether or not your children were successful, made money, stayed married, had good family relationships, whether their kids were happy kids. I mean, it went across health, happiness, every single aspect of life, right? And the only factor that mattered was the warmth of your mother, number one. And then if your father was also warm, it increased the satisfaction level of your life. It didn't change the stats too much, but you just reported that you were more satisfied. It felt more holistic. So, my epic advice to everyone is get really clear about how you love on your children and make sure you understand what that warmth and nurturing and loving mother and father relationship look like.
Exactly. So how do you feel that in your family? How do you make sure that, you set that up?
There's a lot of things. I mean, number one, we focus on, I know this is going to sound crazy, but we focus on goal setting, and like strategically making our month specifically around like, when is family time? What are we going to be doing together? Where are we going? What are we earning? What are we learning? So we're very clear and very intentional about our time, and we use our calendar and goal setting to kind of control what our pace of the family feels like. I know that sounds weird, but because we run it kind of like a business, really, man, which is a little strange to say on camera. But, like tonight is Halloween in the US, right? So we're going to go home at 4:00 and I'm going to love on my girls and we're going to do that. I also do a daughter daddy trip once a year with each of my girls. So last year I took my oldest daughter to the Disney stockholders meeting in Cleveland, Ohio. So we flew to Cleveland together. So we went on a plane together. We packed our bags together. We went to the Disney stockholders meeting. And then we were tourists in Cleveland. So I took her to a children's museum where we played all day together, right? She got to choose the restaurant. She got to choose where we were traveling to. Like, she wanted to go to Disney. My other daughter, I took her to Tahoe and spent time with her in our cabin. So, the younger 3-year-old, I don't know that she would want to sit through a stockholders meeting, So, a funny story is Michael Iger, who's the CEO of Disney. So my wife emailed him and says, hey, my daughter's going to be at the stockholders meeting. We'd like to meet you and say hello. And we got zero response. But because my wife was intentional about that, when we got to the stockholders meeting, I'm like, well, we have to sit next to the mic where the questions are, so maybe we can see Mr. Iger, because he's, we want to say hello. And then I found out who his personal assistant was. And then because of my wife's intentionality with trying to make that connection, I felt like I had to while I was there. So I went up to her and said, hey, my daughter would like to meet him. And so my wife, her intentionality of providing epic and awesome adventure and learning opportunities for my daughter pushed me to take action. So my daughter reaches her hand out and says, pleased to meet you, Mr. Iger. My name is Georgia Ramsey. I'm really excited to be here, and we rehearsed that on the plane because
nice.
I thought we would actually meet the guy. So I have a great photo of my daughter meeting Mr. Iger, and he's the most powerful CEO. He makes the most money of any CEO in the world.
Wow.
Now, the power dynamic there for the average child would maybe be really too high, right? The average kid, that might be nerve-wracking for them. But my daughter, we started her at 5 years old. Next, we're going to go to the Berkshire Hathaway one, So we're just intentionally being really clear with our calendar, with scheduled time and experiences that really kind of build up her character and who she is.
Exactly. Love it. Man, I had a question that slipped my mind. So I'm going to step back to a question that I did get, because you mentioned something in the beginning. You said like, okay, I was on a flight from the East Coast to the West Coast, or the other way around there, but I can't remember. But you were saying like I was working on something because I wanted to have it perfect, right? Yeah. And the big problem that I've noticed of a lot of entrepreneurs that are just starting out is that they want everything perfect and then they never launch, right? And they never start. So what you knew then and what you know now, what's your view now on the word perfect?
I love doing perfect. I'm just going to be clear, but I never let it stop me from taking action. So taking action cannot. When you take action and you're doing something that's new, it can never be perfect because it's something that's new. But I define, in that instance, I was doing a presentation for a company and I wanted it to be really good. And it meant if it was really good, they would hire us and we'd do more work for them. And that's why I wanted it to be as perfect as possible, right? But you're right. Perfect is the enemy of action, and action is what causes businesses to grow and entrepreneurs to start making money. And so, I think Zig Ziglar said it best. He's like, if you can't take a giant leap today, take the biggest step you can and then continue stepping. And Zig is one of my favorite guys ever, in terms of personal development. But yeah, man, I think perfection is the enemy of action, and action is the most important thing when it comes to being an entrepreneur. But the difference that I've found is great entrepreneurs do two things really well. They control outcomes, meaning they measure what they want to have happen and they make sure it happens. So you take action and you move down the train, and they do that really, really well. And then the other thing that great entrepreneurs do well, is they get leverage. They understand the power of having multiple people involved in their world and then having everybody tied to the same vision or mission. And so yeah, that's kind of my belief.
Exactly. Love it. Absolutely love it. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's very powerful for people to wrap it. What you mentioned was, because I hear it a lot, like it's better to take imperfect action. However, you're saying it's important to take action. Just make it as perfect as you possibly can. Right.
That's right. And here's the thing, like I made a lot of mistakes. Oh my God. We could spend an hour talking about all the mistakes I've made with being a father, with being a husband, with being an entrepreneur, with being a human being. I mean, I've made mistakes for sure. But the thing that differentiates, I think, great entrepreneurs to like mediocre ones is the great ones, they learn from their mistakes and they keep iteratively getting better and better and better and better. And versus, most entrepreneurs they kind of grow and then they flatten out and then they stay flat, right? And that's another challenge that we go through, is like being fatigue of growth. Like in our world, in my world, growth is our culture. We have to grow. We have to add new clients. We have to add value to people. And I teach our daughters that. Like my children, one of our mottos is we love our people. We love our people. And our people include family, include our employees, include the virtual assistants that we work with, include our clients, include, our friends that are in our world. We love our people. And by the way, it causes her to act differently, and it's painful for kids because they don't understand being non-selfish. Like, but they stole from me. And I said, that's okay. It is your turn. But they were being rude. We love our people. And, we're going to let them go ahead and have a turn. She goes, that's not right, Dad. I'm like, okay, they really want it. I know you really want it, but you can show restraint and have patience, because at some point he's going to forget about that ball and it'll be your turn. And so, teaching our kids that like level of restraint is pretty dang important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I got my question back that I wanted to ask you earlier.
Good.
You were talking like, okay, we plan this, we plan that. I'm a big planner, so I feel connected with you. I'm like, yes. Once I'm talking to people, they're like, but dude, aren't you really afraid that you're really rigid and boxed in to always be planning? And so I'm wondering, how do you look at that? Is everything that you plan going exactly like this is it? And
no, right? No. In fact, I'll be honest. I mean, and this is if you're listening right now and you're an entrepreneur and you've written some plans, there's this balance of understanding what your capacity as a company is versus what your personal capacity is. So personally, I'm able to do a bunch of stuff because I'm an entrepreneur. I can have 20 different balls in the air and I can do a lot of different things. But, you know, we have 1,200 employees and my organization moves at the speed of the slowest piece of those 1,200 people. Like, that's the challenge that you have as an entrepreneur is you have to know your capacity as a company and plan to that capacity. And so we have a lot of years that we've had 271% growth. And then we've had years where we've had like 3% growth. You know? And you have to understand your capacity as an entrepreneur is going to be different than your organizational capacity. And that difference in expectations could cause a lot of frustration and angst as an entrepreneur. So you have to be very careful to kind of gate those plans and like be comfortable with where things are going and what capacities you have. I mean, and that's the other piece about being an entrepreneur is you constantly have to upgrade your system. You have to upgrade your talent pool. You have to upgrade the people in your organization. And sometimes that means you're adding somebody new into the team. And sometimes that means you're changing somebody out and moving somebody into a different role. So there's a lot of, as an entrepreneur, you have to spend a lot of time considering your organizational capacity for planning and growth and execution.
Exactly. So you mentioned it again, like, you mentioned it earlier as well, making mistakes, like I've made a lot of mistakes, etc. Right? So, and you mentioned earlier, like right in the beginning, like you have a coach for your mind, coach for your heart, right?
Yeah.
So what would be, because this is something that entrepreneurs, especially when we start out, are struggling with, is your own mind, right? Somebody says something, oof, you make a mistake, boom.
Yeah.
You fail something, boom, right? What would be one of the tips that you could share with us that somebody could use right now that could really help them with their ongoing
leadership or their mind?
With their mind, right? With their conversation in their head that they're not good enough or that they make mistakes, and how to handle that negativity going on in your own mind.
You know what? I just had it yesterday, man. I'm just going to share the most recent one. You know, I was feeling blue and down. And I mean, I think there's a piece too, is men, we don't get to share, we don't get to share from our heart sometimes how we're feeling, especially because I have a group of people that work for me. So I consistently need to be positive and my clients, they want to hear happy Daniel and excited Daniel. They don't want to hear oh man, it was a tough day today, but for me, it was the heart. I talked to my spirit coach and, I told her what was going on. And what's funny, you'll love this. My family and I were planning to go to Santa Cruz, California, which is a beautiful place. We have my wife's aunt lives there and has a cousin, and they just had a baby. And I just got back from DC. So as a family, we went to DC. We toured around and we did all the the history museums, and we just did the whole, and I did some work. So we were there 6 days. I did 3 days of work and 3 days of family. Okay. Awesome. So it was a good blend of kind of work, family, whatever. And it was great because I got to see my kids, and normally I would be gone for those 6 days and just not see them, So that was really cool. But I was dreading this trip to Santa Cruz. I was just dreading it. I think you have 2 opportunities in life. 2. I don't know if there we go. 2.
There we go.
2 opportunities in life, right? You can either decide that things are happening for you or they're happening to you. And so yesterday I had to really hold on to the fact that I was going to get a whole weekend with my family in Santa Cruz. It's a beautiful place, but I just didn't want to go. I'll be frank. I just did not want to go. I'm tired. I want to stay home. I'm a soccer guy, so I wanted to play some soccer on the weekend. I wanted to barbecue and like sit around, right? I did not want to travel. I did not want to stay in a hotel. I did not want to have to pack a bag. I did not want to see, I just didn't want to do anything. And this morning I woke up and our 2 girls are sick. And so the world answered and said, we're not going to Santa Cruz this weekend. And I know that sounds weird, but yesterday I had to accept it, and I had to start thinking about all of the good that could happen in Santa Cruz, how beautiful the beaches are, how awesome the area is, how great it's going to be to see the new baby in the family, my friend that I could stop by and say hello on the way. So I started, reminding myself of all the good. And then this morning, the universe gave me a little gift, and I don't want my kids to be sick. Don't listen to me. But turns out we're not going. And hallelujah, I'm excited. So anyways, I think back to your original question, that's a long story for a 2-part. Either things are happening for you or to you. And as an entrepreneur, you have to really choose things happen for me. I have a good friend in Chicago. He always says his mom put his mind right as a kid, because she would always say to him, you're born under a lucky star. And consistently reinforce and consistently reinforce and consistently reinforce that. And so, if you're having challenges, like every entrepreneur does, you just have to get clear about for me, not to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that one of my coaches taught me. Everything happens for your betterment. So, and that's it's true and very powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Man, I'm going to ask you a last question before we get to the end, because you mentioned you travel, right? So I'm assuming that you're going to travel some often, and then you miss being with your family. And I had a couple of guys mentioning man, I have to travel a lot, and I feel really guilty for not, the first day I'm okay, but then second day, not so much. And the third day I start really feeling guilty for not being with my family, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you suffer from that, but what I would like to see, if you have some advice, what would, how can you deal with that feeling of guilt?
I've got it. I want to be clear.
Right,
I'm flying somewhere in 2 weeks. I've got to go to Atlanta, then back to DC, then over to Africa for I'm going to go on for, I think, 10 days or something like that. The guilt is real. You've got to stay right in your mind. But I also my strategy that I employ is I try to give back to my family the time that I needed. So, before and after the trip, I'll schedule 3 or 4 days where I'm with the family, and before and after 3 or 4 days where I'm with the family. So, I work really diligently to try to give that back. And the other piece is I'm very present with the kids when I'm with them and with the wife. So, the struggle is real. There's nothing you can do about it, in my opinion, but you just have to be intentional, spend time with them, make sure it's quality time, and you're not watching TV or doing stupid stuff, but have fun with them, right? This is about being a father, and I haven't even talked about my favorite thing to do. Let me talk about that.
Right.
My favorite thing to do is really play with my kids. And when I say play, I mean last night we had a Halloween party at the office here in Sacramento, California. And, we're leaving, and I'm chasing them from room to room and just tickling them or, saying boo. And, for 20 minutes, which isn't a long time, it's 20 minutes, I'm just chasing them around my office, and I think, I don't know, as adults, sometimes we can get lost in all the things that have to get done and all the busy work and all that stuff. So, my favorite thing to do is play, and they're only young for a short time frame. They're not going to want to play with me, in 10 years, for instance. One of my good friends started measuring what you want to do is my 6-year-old, if you think about it, at 15, they don't really want to spend time with mom and dad anymore. They've got friends. They got a car now. They can go out and do whatever they want, right? So that means in my space, I got 10 more summers with my daughter. I got 13 more with my youngest. And then, you know, in the summertime, we're going to go on a family trip. And they're going to be like, can we bring a friend? You're like, no, you can't bring a friend. This is family time, right? Well, that argument only works for a little bit of time, you know? So, my favorite thing is play. I also heard this other thing. I don't buy my kids things. Like, I don't let them ask me. They ask. Well, that's not true. I don't ever buy them what they asked for. So we go to a store and they're like, Dad, I want this. I'm like, no, and don't ask. I'm not buying you that thing, right? And the reason is because kids will just, and I did it as a kid. I was always asking my mom, hey, Mom, can I have this or that or this? And what I'm training my kids, you know, to do is, number one, I hope one day they stop asking, right? But number two is I don't want to buy them junk. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't buy them gifts or presents, things that I know they want or things that we've talked about, right? But I want them to, I want them to have little chores around the house. They have their own money. So they have 3 buckets. They have spend, save, and give buckets on the wall for them. So every time the tooth fairy comes, if they want to buy something, they have their own money to buy it. And then I'm stuck with the opportunity to give them gifts from the heart, but I don't buy them things. So if they want to work, we like, hey, our cars need to be cleaned, you know, and so we'll go out and clean cars, or you want to pick up, you rake leaves, you can rake some leaves, or if you want to clean the house, you know, we look for chores. We ask them to negotiate the price, you know, and so they learn to negotiate. And then if they do the work, we pay them like they're adults. And then they split their money a third, and then they can spend their money on anything they want.
Nice. Like it. That's a really nice, big ass golden nugget to finish this live interview with. Daniel, thank you so much. We're going to end with, I'm going to show everybody this. This is the website to your business. It's in the comment section. It's actually also in the description, people. So it doesn't matter if you're listening right now or if you're listening to the replay, you can just check it out. And there are more links in there that I put in. Put your LinkedIn there as well. And your Facebook group as well. Or no, Facebook page, sorry. So people can check that out. But yeah, man, I still got questions, but for other entrepreneurial dads out there that still would like to, you know, ask you some questions, connect with you, what are the best ways?
Yeah, man. I mean, definitely comment. My team will be following this post and following the comments on it. So if you wanted to reach out and chat, we, as a business, we help entrepreneurs get leverage and instantly scale. So if you need help growing a business, you know, we're always here to serve and help. That's part of our core values, is to be a servant's heart. So we do that every single day as part of our normal business. And the father stuff, it's not really, I mean, I've never really even talked about it. You're the first guy that I've ever talked to about this kind of stuff. And I would say, you know, keep finding methods and ways. I'm happy to, on Facebook, if you reach out to me, I'll say hello and respond. You can go to our website and do a consultation, and I'll be in that too. But yeah, and you can email me at Daniel@MyOutDesk. It's very easy to get a hold of me. But I wish I knew more about being a fearless father. I'm simply doing my best, I think, is what I would say.
And that's what it's all about, right? And at least for me, like I made some things like, what does that mean? Number one is being an entrepreneur, and two is just without or you just with full courage.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, because it's some scary stuff being a father, right? I mean, I remember when I was holding my firstborn. Man, it was just scary. I'm like, all right, here you go. Take him back. I'm afraid I'm going to drop him and stuff like that.
So, might break this kid. I'm not sure. Yeah, we've all had that feeling.
Exactly. So again, Daniel, thank you so much for being on. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. watching the replay, make sure that you share this. If you saw some golden nuggets and you know, like, there's some friends in there that can learn this as well, make sure you share. And I wish everybody an amazing rest of the day. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Klaas.